Well, congratulations on the book. I've read it. I absolutely loved it. I think it should be a movie. I absolutely see four women play these wonderful parts. I quickly want to pick on your brain right now and ask you these fun questions. If you had to describe your current state of life as a book title, what would it say?
Clearly neurotic.
That's a great one. If you could time travel and get a chance to interview any literary character, who would that be and why?
That's a very interesting question. Shakespeare, I think. It would be 100% Shakespeare. I mean, when I was training at RADA, his words, it doesn't matter who is acting them out, what kind of setting it is, his words just carry. You don't even have to understand it, you just have to speak it and it does something to you. So
He's the OG.
he's the OG of OGs.
OG of all OGs. Okay. If you were to pitch to write a celeb biography to anybody, whose life would you want to pick upon and why?
You mean I would write a celeb biography for someone? There's a lot of people, but you know what? I love fiction. I love the power of imagination. And although celeb biographies would usually have a lot of lies, so yeah. I don't know. No one really intrigues me that much.
Let's go with fiction. 3 books you would carry to a deserted island.
Anything by Anne Patchett, I love her. Anything by Salman Rushdie, because, come on, who doesn't need that kind of imagination, especially when you're stuck in a deserted island? And what else? Because that's a tough question, right? I read a lot, so I read slowly, right? And you only need 3. I think I would carry a play. You know why? And it would probably be a Shakespeare play of some kind, any kind, doesn't matter. Because in a deserted island, I could play all the parts, entertain myself, and just be doing lines.
And Suhana, let us in on that. The fact that you were writing plays, that's something we didn't know about you.
I'm not writing plays, I wrote my first play. Because the thing is that I wrote the first draft of this book quite fast, like about 7 months. But then the literary world is very slow. It goes through a process, and the process is important. Editing process, publishing process, etc., etc. And I don't have patience because, come on, let's get on with it. So in between that, I started writing this play. Actually, I just started writing, and it turned into a play because it needed that. Every story has its own medium, and it will reveal itself, So you talked about this book being a film, perhaps because it's very visual. But at the moment, I wrote it very specifically for it to be a book because I needed to be in the head of these characters. I wanted to be in their stream of consciousness. And that, yes, you can leave it to the actors, but I wanted to do it. So that
We get into the head of these characters, these women, yeah? I mean, it's fantastic. You're turning the page and you're feeling different emotions. It's insane.
Thank you for saying that.
Tell me, if you had to write a foreword, okay, a foreword for a book, for a friend or a family member, who would you be delighted to write for?
I'd be delighted to write for anyone who wrote a book because finishing a book requires a certain kind of discipline. And if anyone who's put in the work has that discipline, I'd be delighted if someone asked me to write a foreword.
And my favorite part of the book was the fact that, when you're writing the French words, you're not putting brackets and not translating them. That is so French. They don't care a hoot if you can speak the language or not. And you have stayed true to yourself. That's something that I've taken away from the book.
Tushar, actually, I was saying this earlier, that when you create any art form, whether it's a book, a painting, a film, it's really your audience, your viewer, who interprets it for you. And that's very, very subjective, right? The fact that Miss Malini Agarwal said this, and you're saying this again, they were like, oh, you didn't translate the French to make sure that the people feel as left out as you perhaps or your characters felt. I didn't think of it at the time, but yes, precisely that. Precisely that. You don't have to get it. You just carry on. You don't have to get it. You feel like you're left out, but life carries on.
And there are so many such moments in the book. I mean, I want readers to pick the book. I want them to feel every emotion and go through that journey. The title says clearly Invisible in Paris, but I think the book will make a lot of people feel their emotions, get those emotions to the surface and make them visible.
I think that is exactly the idea. People struggle, people have courage, and they do it in a very invisible way, and they do it unrecognized. And it's a way of seeing, no matter who, you scratch the surface and everyone is carrying a cross. Everyone has got their own story, their own strife. And I think my point of writing this book was to say, I see you. I see you, you're there, you're not invisible. And if someone does feel a little less invisible by reading my book because they feel that their story was reflected, represented, then I did my job.
You've done your job so beautifully. I mean, at a time where social media and all of that culture has seeped in, just little lines and little paragraphs make you feel visible. Thank you so much for the book. And I think this is just the beginning. We are going to have another conversation soon. I can see.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you for reading my book and thank you for loving it.
Take care. Thank you, Koel. Bye.
अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया है तो इसे लाइक करें, कमेंट देके अपनी राय ज़रूर दें और ऐसे ही एक्सक्लूसिव कंटेंट के लिए हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब ज़रूर करें। अगर आप ये वीडियो फेसबुक पर देख रहे हैं तो हमारे फेसबुक पेज को फॉलो ज़रूर करें। नाम तो आप सब जानते ही हैं, सास बहू और बेटियां।